Hey guys, welcome to Project Metal Music's YouTube channel. I'm with your host El Young, and we are here with Eddie and Phil. Welcome, guys. Uh,
Thanks,
so,
Joe.
what? Who are you, and what you do in Mattersphere?
Well, I'm Eddie. I'm the lead vocalist for Mattersphere, and this is.
I'm Phil. I play the guitar.
Okay.
Yeah, he does. Eddie does. This is Phil's first interview, so be gentle.
I'm a
Okay.
virgin
I will.
interviewee.
I will. So let's dive into some questions. As a kid, as kids, what were you basically listening to?
Did you want to start, Phil, or do you want to?
I'll start. So on the guitar, look, I listened to a lot of country music. Of all things, it was a lot of country and Tommy Emmanuel. I don't know if your listeners know Tommy Emmanuel, but I absolutely loved Tommy Emmanuel. I used to watch a TV show called Hey Hey It's Saturday, and every Saturday night, Tommy Emmanuel would make an appearance. And he would absolutely smash it. And there was something about his playing that just made me want to copy him, and I just really wanted to play like him and sound like him and feel the things that he would feel when he was playing, because you could see it in his expressions and his emotions, and I absolutely loved it. And that really inspired me to learn as many Tommy Emmanuel songs as I could. But mind you, they're super hard, songs. And I don't particularly play them note for note, but absolutely loved his music. And then I went into Gary Moore. I went into the blues. Stevie Ray Vaughan was a big influence. I've got to say, I love really the BB King, Stevie Ray Vaughan, all of those licks. Just an encyclopedia, a library of stuff that you could just absorb yourself in and learn and analyze and try and understand why they sound like they do. And I think there's so much of technique and intellect in what they do, coupled with emotion, and you take a lot out of that. And so there was a lot of that, and then really just using that to tune my year, as I learned more and more. So starting to work with Eddie on different stuff, more of the 80s, you kind of get into kind of analyzing your music and trying to map it back to stuff that you've already kind of been exposed to. So that's kind of been my journey in a nutshell.
For me, it'd be basically my eldest brother was a very, very huge music fan, and he was a fan of bands such as Uriah Heep, Yes, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, and so I grew up with that kind of influence. And then about 1977, I think I was watching the ABC. I forgot what that program was called, Countdown, and they had Bohemian Rhapsody, and I saw Freddie Mercury for the first time and heard him, and I thought, wow, that guy can sing really well. So, and then my influences went all over the place. I started listening to, I think Elton John, Too Low for Zero album, which I thought was just fantastic, and most of it, and then started listening to his earlier stuff than that, and then I was introduced to Iron Maiden, and I just went, wow, that guy Bruce Dickinson is just the man. He can belt it out, great, and a great performer as well. So. And then a little bit later on, I got influenced by bands such as Poison and Bon Jovi and Warrant. They just had that sound that I just really, really loved. Uh, David Lee Roth, not so much, but Sammy Hagar, wow, he just loved it when he joined Van Halen. I thought he nailed it, but not saying anything off from David Lee Roth, because I sort of like his style of way, how he sings songs as well. So, yeah, so I started back around that late 1980s, I went to some singing lessons, and I got taught by a lady by the name of Jerry Scott, who her stage name is Jerry Starr, who was a big star jazz singer back in the 30s and 40s. She taught me how to project my voice and how to actually sing properly. So, and so I sort of got into some jazz, not as much, because I was just at that stage I started playing with bands and gigging, so to speak. So yeah, so that's where all my influences have come from. But lately I've been listening to Miles Kennedy. I think he's just anything with Altered Bridge is just gold. I love that style of singing as well.
Steel Panther.
Oh, I do like Steel Panther too. I don't know why.
I love the Panther.
Yeah, who doesn't love the Panther? Come on.
Inspiration.
Yes. These are these private things that we've been sort of talking about. It's like because we love the sound of Steel Panther. We just think they're just great.
Yeah, their musicianship, not the word. Well, I mean, the words are arguably.
Yeah. They're great. I mean, as much as they like to take the mickey out on everything, their musicianship is just pretty mind-boggling. They're pretty damn good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not much of a Steel Panther fan, but I do like some of their stuff.
Oh yeah, they just got that classic 80s sound that they and they do it so well. So yeah, love it.
Yeah. So
we're all sick of those to begin with, aren't we? Really? I mean,
we're all sick. We're all sick.
Yeah.
So, Eddie, you touched on a little bit there about your brother introducing you to music.
Yes. Yeah.
So, who else got you into music?
Well, I hadn't realised. Yeah, for me, I hadn't realised that my grandfather was on my father's side. He was a great vocalist, and I sort of didn't realise this until probably a little later on in life, where he actually sang at his 50th wedding anniversary, and he could sing like Caruso. He was just amazing. And I had no idea that he's before he got married or like that, it's what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a professional singer, and something happened in his life that just changed that direction in his life, and he just went the way that he went. But that guy had just he was a pocket rocket, I would call. He wasn't very tall, but the voice was just this. Like, I was absolutely gobsmacked. I had no idea that he could actually sing the way that he could, and he was he could sing Caruso. I think just like Caruso, if not better. I know it's a big talk, but he was just an amazing singer. So, and unfortunately, I only got to saw it once, so I never saw it again after that. So, so music has sort of been in my family for in one way or another. But yeah, my grandfather, that happened back in the early 80s, and I just went, wow, if I could get anywhere near that kind of strength in my vocals and sing like he did, because he just, when he sang, he his voice commanded the room. He was just amazing. So he had a massive influence on my singing career.
Cool. Phil, who actually got you into music?
Well, I've got to say, my dad started giving me kind of basic chords and introductory lessons. Mum would be on my back constantly because I did not want to play the guitar. She'd virtually lock me in my bedroom and say, right, for the next half an hour, you are going to play the guitar. And at the time, I didn't really kind of realize it, but it started to instill really all of the discipline that you need to put into anything that needs that level of commitment to get good at it. And so I've got to say, my mum instilled that kind of discipline, but Dad started me off, and then I started listening to tapes and slowing them down. And I remember Johnny Be Good and some of the rock and roll stuff was some of the first stuff I started slowing down on tape, and learning all of the licks and all of the little bits that you get out of it. And then, of course, when the internet came along, we had software where you could slow stuff down and analyze it. And I just taught myself, really, and I had a couple of people that would spend a couple of weeks with me on certain things, but it's got to be a self-inspiring journey to keep it as a long-term thing, in my view, anyway.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so who inspired you to become a musician? Was it a family member, or was there some cousin, or some like other band member, or other bands that you've listened to be, who you wanted to become a musician?
Well, I had a bunch of friends who played quite a bit in bands, and they were really well known and in the community and in little towns that they'd go around to. And I used to always kind of follow them around and watch what they would do. This is probably when I was about 15, 16, 17. And I think I slowly got up on stage when they invited me and started getting my chops into it and kind of got into it that way, you know. So it was my mates. Yeah.
Yeah. Eddie?
Oh gosh, for me, getting started was I started at a fairly young age of getting up on stage. Like when I was 7, I was one of these kids that can sing. Well, I was asked to audition for the Vienna Boy Choir, so I was one of those kids that had a very, very high voice and could sing. And I didn't do anything for a little while after that because my father at the time said, "No, you're going to go into football, and that's what you're playing, and you're not singing." So I said, "Yeah, well," and you know, back in those days, you didn't have much say when your parents told you what you did. You just did it. Not now, like nowadays. Anyway, then I was at school and I decided to busk for some lunch money, and so I went up to the local music room and I grabbed a guitar, went downstairs, and I started playing a couple of songs that I'd sort of learnt. A couple of songs from America and Don McLean, and just the very easy classics, I suppose. And I managed to get about $20. So I just thought, wow, in one sitting I got $20. So that was great because it set me up for lunch for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then every 2 or 3 weeks I'd go back down there with the guitar and play again, and I'd get another $20. So then when I was at school, then a mate of mine came around and said, these guys had listened to you. They just want you to see whether you'd want to audition for a band that you might know of. It's they're called The Church. And because Steve Kilby's, they're all from Canberra. And anyway, when my parents found out, they said, "No, you're not doing that." So I didn't do that, but I still was hanging around these guys, and they were in a band that was playing just after school, and I'd go watch them play at different venues, and then eventually I try. That my mate's band broke up, and they went away for a couple of years. And I thought I'd try and get a band going with my younger brother, who's a drummer, a really good drummer. But we just couldn't seem to like it. Getting a band together and holding them, it's very, very difficult at the best of times. And anyway, then I went for to try out in another band, and I went to try out for 6 bands, and I got in all 6. But I chose this particular band because I thought they had the most potential. And I think about a week within playing with that band, because they were already on the scene, I sort of said, we can't play with that guy in the band because he's not learning the songs, and I've learned all these songs, and none of you guys have learned any of the songs, and but this guy's just done nothing. So why don't we get another guitarist in? And that's when Krusty, who's the guitarist, the other guitarist for Mattersphere, he came in, and he just finished playing off with a band called Bastille, and they'd been signed to a record label, and the band had broken up, and he just so happened to be coming in Canberra, and I rang him and said, "Would you want to try?" He goes, "Yeah, okay." And then we went on for that band for about 4 or 5 years, and that was great. That's where I got um, uh, my teeth sunk into playing live music, and it just took off from there. We went for about 4 or 5 years. We were playing almost 4 nights a week, and we all had day jobs as well. So you could just imagine how productive we would have been back then. It was crazy times, but it was just the best of times. So yeah, so that's where I started off in playing music, and then from there I went for a couple of years and playing in various duos, where I eventually met up with this guy, and me and Phil played for a couple of years, and then Phil went off, and then Phil's come back, and I started to. My wife said, "Why don't you just do original music? Like you write some really good stuff." And I said, "Yeah," because I've been playing covers for 20, 30 years, so I know how to put a song together. But so I started doing that, and Mattersphere, the album, that first album that came out, that was my first attempt at writing music. But hopefully we'll get to writing the second album fairly soon. So hopefully, stay focused, people, especially this guy.
So yeah, Eddie, you've sort of briefly touched on there on previous bands prior to Mattersphere. Now, Phil, what bands, if any, what bands were you in, if any?
Oh, look, I've been in lots of cover bands. No original material, but I'm more of a bedroom original material creator. I've got to say, my confidence before I met Eddie was not that not that fantastic at being able to feel like I could do that kind of thing, and so I always reverted back to what I knew, which was to try and emulate kind of other people and learn from them. So I think Eddie gave me that perspective that I could kind of make it up and try and utilize things that you learn and create new music. And so it's still a journey. And I think for me, the bands I've been in really have all been covers, have all been cover bands. But there's lots that you learn in there, obviously trying to get along with different musicians and trying to work out different styles and trying to understand really how instruments sit with each other. And there's a lot to learn in that. On top of when you go into creating new material, you kind of apply all of that, because you've got to know and understand all of that before you can get into that sort of level, you know what I mean? So it's a useful starting point, and I think it's just the start of a journey to try and make kind of new music now, for me.
So, Mattersphere, what has the band been up to in the last year?
Well, COVID basically stopped a lot of things going through. So we were supposed to be playing at a festival, and we just finished off playing with the Tea Party, doing a support with them, and support with Marty Friedman for lead guitarist from Megadeth. We were supposed to be playing, doing a support for 2 current members of Megadeth. So it's sort of because of COVID's come along, and it's just totally totally, absolutely wrecked the industry in the sense of touring and all those touring bands. It's really put a halt on everything. And in that, from there to now, the band has gone through a lineup change. We've got 3 new members. We've got Phil Lopez and Steve Moore, aka known as Krusty or the Crustmeister, as we love to call him. And we've got a new bass player by the name of David Mannon. So now we're at the process of, like, we're at the enviable process now where we can sort of sit back and start writing music and take our time, so to speak, instead of like the first album that we did, we just madly just pushed it out there and didn't have time to settle down in the songs and really make them our own. And I think a lot of bands, especially new bands that are out there, when they get their first album, they madly put an album together, and then they realise when they put it out there that they haven't sort of really made the songs their own. And I don't know whether most musicians would probably understand that, is the longer you play a song, the more you make the song your own, and you get cemented. And there's certain things that you would do. But this time around, we're going to be taking our time with the songs, and when the album does drop, and I'm hoping that it will get into the studio fairly soon. But when it does, the songs are going to be like exemplary. And I think we were talking before about about how writing songs, you need to put a certain element of your soul into the songs, so that every song that Mattersphere writes has a meaning, and whether it be a personal, when I write, it's always from personal experience or from what I see and or what I hear. But yeah, that's where Mattersphere is at the moment. We're just the guys we've just had our first rehearsal, and I must admit the first rehearsal was pretty awesome. So yeah, it was good.
Right. So you've briefly touched on you in the process of obviously with the new lineup and everything. You're sort of like contemplating like some new material, and any hints on when that's all coming out, or when you're starting to write the new album.
Yeah, well, the thing at the moment, where the process for us at the moment is like we want to listen to, for me anyways, I want to listen to a lot of different music. I mean, I like listening to bands like Altered Bridge. We also like listening to Steel Panther, which is one of our bands that we were talking about before. We just love that sound that they have, that 80s rock sound. It's just gold. I mean, it's probably because of not so much the lyrics so much. Sometimes maybe we do like the lyrics, but no, overall we're just big fans of them, and love that sort of style of music.
It's more about the melody now. I think
Yeah.
we want to put more emphasis on injecting more melody into composition. So it's not just a series or chords that just work normally within your progressions, but it's more about really the melody and the meaning that comes from the melody. Anyway, without sounding kind of wanky about it, but it's got to be quite emotionally relevant.
Yeah.
So, any ideas on when you're going to try and get it into the studio or into?
It's like everything. It's like how long's a piece of string. There's so many variables in putting an album together. Like not only like putting the album together, it's like where do we record the album, and then once you've got the songs, you record the album. So you've got to figure out a way of like recording the album and where you want to record it and what sort of sounds you want. Then you're going to have to find an engineer, one that you like to work with, and then you've got to find someone that can master the album. And it all comes down to a lot of things. So you listen to what other engineers have done or what other studios have done as well. But so at this stage, and it also comes down to the almighty dollar and how much you can afford, which is another thing that I think most bands would basically appreciate, because it to put an album out costs tens of thousands of dollars. So it's not something that sort of, unfortunately, money doesn't grow on trees. Otherwise, I'd have a plantation out of my back yard. But yeah, so when it's going to drop, it's a good guess. I'd love it to be by the end of this year. But this year is like, it's almost June. And yeah, I don't know how soon we'll be able to do that. Maybe 2022 probably would be probably a safer bet. That way we can sort of get the songs together, make them our own, and then once we do the recording and get the engineer, get it mixed and mastered, that takes fairly not much time at all, but it's just doing all the other things as well, like getting it onto getting the artwork done for the album and stuff like that. That also takes time too. So it's all time and money. So and we're working on that sort of thing at the moment.
Yeah. So let's just say that you've got your album sorted, you've got it all like mixed, mastered,
Yep.
recorded, and everything. Is there any plans on any tours?
Well, it depends on. There would be. Yeah, we do have there's been a couple of agencies that have offered us tours already. But until we have that all the album ready to go, we'll just have to wait and see what happens then, because there's always deals with tours and stuff like that. So we'll just wait and see what sort of deal we get, and we'll take the best deal, obviously, for ourselves. But with COVID, there's not going to be any overseas tours, not for a long time. I don't think. I think. Every time
2023 maybe.
Yeah, 2023 would be probably closer to the mark when anything would happen. I think because I think now with bands, they have to, if they're touring, they've got to spend like 14 days in isolation. And if I don't know too many bands that'd have their whole crew and themselves in isolation for 14 days. I think most of them would kill each other, I think, if that was the case, because just even the cost factor as well, because you've got to pay people to sit in quarantine. It's like, it's a good way of losing a lot of money quickly. So if we're going to tour, to be probably the east coast of Australia. I'd love to go over to Western Australia. Perth, I think Perth has got a great live scene over there. So I'd love to get over there and play in Perth. But yeah, I think at the moment it'd be just the east coast of Australia.
Yeah. So this is probably going to be the last question. Before I do go into the last question, where can people find Mattersphere? Have you got a website, Facebook, Twitter, pages like that?
Yeah, we are on Twitter and we are on Facebook, and you can. I think we do have a website. It's just mattersphere.com.au, and we do. But everything's got to be like, as I said, everything costs money, and it's just a matter of when I can inject money into getting all our sites and all that. But yeah, we are on Twitter and we are on Facebook, and I think we're also. I can't remember where else we're on. I think Instagram as well. I think that's the other one. But yeah.
Yeah. So the final question: have you got any advice for people who want to become a musician?
Work hard. Lots of hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Excuse me.
Yeah, if you're a young band and you're starting off, it's my advice to you is like always make sure that everyone in your group has the same goals, and always expect more out of yourself than other people in the band, because everyone's got lives, and music can get very, very serious. But I think for me, I always like to have a lot of fun, because that's the kind of guy I am. I just like to joke around a fair bit. And I think once the fun goes out of it, that's when you leave the band, and just go on. And the other thing is, don't necessarily, if you're young and you want to start off, don't necessarily lock yourself into one genre, because music's huge and massive, and you just never know what kind of music that you really would like to, or that you'd be more akin to. So yeah, and yeah, just remember just to have fun. It's what music's all about.
Yeah.
Having fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to you, to you, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Mate,
To you guys.
thank you very much, Phil. And I'd like
Thank you,
to give
El.
a big shout out to Susie Q. You know who you are. Love you.
Yeah. Yeah, Sue. Yeah, Sue's absolutely brilliant. Sue's absolutely brilliant. She's been a force of nature when it comes to Mattersphere, and
Oh
we've
yeah,
been.
she's our number one fan. That's by a long shot. She's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, she's absolutely brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant. She's the one who actually put us together as
Yeah,
like talking to each other.
yep. She's a force of nature. She's just amazing.
She is, she is absolutely brilliant. She's what can I say about Susie Q? She's absolutely brilliant. She's
She's
Let's write a song
beautiful.
about it.
I'm going to write a song about Susie Q, because she's just too cute for words, and we love you at Mattersphere. Always Susie Q. Yeah, and I think that if every band, and if advice to younger bands, you need a Susie Q in your team. You know, there's always got your back. And Susie Q, she's Matterspheres. Hands off, everyone.
Like I said, thank you so much for coming on and doing this interview. Thank you guys. Thank you
Thank you
so
very much
much.
for having us.
Thanks for having us, El. Thanks.
Thank you, mate.
And